All right. I don't think the music actually started. Oh, I might have the music muted. Welcome, everybody. I believe we are live now. We should be live on all streaming platforms now. Welcome to Unified Fuel Town Hall. I'm Rich, your community manager. I am live from Denver. I came out to East Denver this week, and we are here to do town hall on all things related to Unified Fuel. We released several blogs yesterday, lots of information to go over. I'm not even sure if everyone had time to go over it all yet, but hopefully you did. And we gathered all the questions that came in overnight, at least, overnight for me, at least. And yeah, we're going to go through them in this town hall with Perry. And yeah, get as many questions answered as possible. I just want to reiterate at the beginning of this town hall that this town hall is with myself and Perry. So this is meant to be focused on Unified Fuel. Perry and myself are not the people that are going to be able to answer your questions like when is this coming, or is Overworld MMO going to have this or that. So you get the gist of it. We're here to deal with the Unified Fuel, and we're going to go over those and probably some automated drone run stuff, and maybe even show off an automated drone run at the end. We'll see if Kieran gets back to me, or if Jeremy or Roger says it's okay, then I'll supersede Kieran on that. So but yeah, so excited to have everyone here. Thank you guys for coming out. And we're, like I said, this is live streaming, and so it will be recorded automatically on X, YouTube, Twitch, all of the above. So yeah, we can go ahead and jump right in and get started. The first thing I want to do, because not everybody knows Perry, most of you know me, myself, Richard, community manager, but Perry is a little bit more in the background. So yeah, Perry, if you want to introduce yourself and what you do for Illuvium, how long you've been here, and then we can hop into this town hall.
Sure. Thanks, Rich. And thanks, everyone, for coming by. My name is Perry, as you know. I've been with Illuvium for almost 4 years. So not truly an OG, but pretty close. And I get pestered for that all the time. I mainly act as head of data for Illuvium, and pretty much in the recent months been much more, I'd say since launch, much more ahead of economy. I've also done a lot of what I'd like to call system design. So a bit of the nitty gritty of the game design. For example, the beyond probability models are mine. So, with what odds are you getting certain outcomes? Pretty much any tuning to do with zero has my name on it. Overworld, a lot of system design in terms of what do you get from certain runs, how much, what did it cost, all those kinds of things. Probably has either me on it, or at least I've reviewed it or have meddled with it in some way. I'd say that's mainly my role at the moment. But yeah, we've had a huge update just announced, and should be on
Totally.
Testnet pretty soon.
By the way,
Let's
Perry's
get into
awesome. Great coworker. Love to have him here. Just want to hype you up a little bit, Perry. But yeah, so basically, like I said, town hall. The purpose of this is to go over, the Unified Fuel update. If you guys haven't read it, there's a blog that goes over all of it. There's a lot of other things that went into this update. The features that are coming with this, are the multiplayer servers being tested on Testnet, drone augments, the Overworld, the new Overworld fuel systems. All this stuff isn't live yet on Testnet, but it should be soon, hopefully. and I know the guys are working in the background right now on it, so it should be done soon. And then the auto drone runs. There's all kinds of stuff that goes into this release. So we're going to kind of break down each part of that blog that we went through as we go through this, and we'll answer some of the questions that people submitted as we go through this. And then once we get to the end, if you guys still have questions and stuff wasn't answered that you needed, then we can bring you guys up live, and you can ask Perry live questions as well. So yeah, we'll go ahead and jump right into this, and I guess we can at least start with, the unified fuel discussion here, Perry, as our first, topic, the what and the why of it. Why are we merging, the three fuel types? Typically, if you played Illuvium, we had three different fuels: Krypton, Solon, and Hyperion. They were used for different things. So why are we going about this merge, and why is it important? And yeah, so we can at least start from there.
Sure, great start. I think the main argument, and I think the one we should tackle first, is just the simplicity of it, and with that simplicity, the potential of acquisition. We've felt since release that we have such a complex ecosystem, and that it has been very hard for newcomers to wrap their minds around it. And there's obviously, as with any game, there's a certain amount of complexity to get through, and we could have been better in presenting that complexity and explaining that. But there's always also this sort of base level of complexity that we've seen has not given us the sort of acquisition numbers that we were hoping for. So our main goal with Unified Fuel is to remove some of the questions like, oh yeah, I just jumped into the ecosystem. What kind of fuel should I use? What's the difference between Hyperion and Solon? That is now all simplified, and also from a acquisition flow, from a person actually finding Alluvium and trying to get into it. We've tried to make it much easier to actually get to your first gameplay session, actually get to your first NFT. I think that's the main goal, but there's some other goals as well. I think through this simplicity, there's also just a lot less upkeep for the team to do. As you all know, we've laid off quite a few people not too long ago, and even without that layoff, having a more simple system that makes sense not only to external people but also takes less time for us to update for every single update helps us a ton. And I think a third, and this is a bit of a personal advantage, I would say, is we've built this sort of economic interface between Illuvium Zero and the other games, where the coupling between those two games is a lot less tight. Previously, we've had to, every time we change something on the overworld, we had to keep Zero in account. Every time we change something on the Zero side, we had to keep overworld into account. And through this sort of interface, through Unified Fuel, I think this helps us with being able to change either side of that interface without affecting the other one too much.
Yeah,
Does that
totally.
answer your
Yeah, I
question?
mean, it was basically just like a high level of the reasons we're doing it, so it can hopefully make sense to a lot of people that don't know why this is happening, right? And I think it's been a long time coming, so I think yeah, like most people knew this was coming at some point, so it's just good to get it answered. So in a high level way. So I guess do you want to from here, I guess, So you've answered the reasoning and the clarification of the three fuel types and why we're doing this. But I guess more specifically, the questions that will be answered in this section would be, uh, how is the migration going to occur? Basically, I guess we'll start there.
Sure. So, pretty simply put, what we'll do is, first of all, there are some unfilled orders on the fuel exchange. So I wanted to sell my Solon for that price, but no one has bought it yet, or it has been impartially bought. The part that hasn't been bought will be cancelled, and that fuel will be, let's say, reserved on your plot in Illuvium 0. Then we will send all the fuel you have on your IZ plots, or if you have multiple oil plots, onto your account up to a certain threshold. We've picked 1,000 of each fuel type. We deem this to be a decent threshold for people to not play around with their progression too much. Say you're a lower tier plot and you haven't gotten as far as you wanted to be. If we were to go down to 0 on your plot, you probably wouldn't be very happy because we would have stopped your progression. So we chose 1,000 of each fuel type as this threshold, but any fuel above that threshold will get sent to your account. And then once that is all tallied up, your old fuel on your account for each type will be migrated to the new fuel.
And what's sorry, did you mention like what the new fuel is just called fuel, right? Okay. So yeah, just to make it simple so everyone understands.
Yes.
The new fuel is just called fuel. So that's what it'll be changed to. So I think you answered this as well, but I mean, maybe we just make it super clear here. If you have 100 of each type of fuel, Krypton, Hyperion, and Solon, what will you have after, basically? Just so they have an easy example out in the open.
Right. I did the calculation just before this town hall, actually. And the ratio is, let me look it up so I don't give you something. I think it's 88.8 with a lot of digits in between. So what that means is that for each 88.8, let's say 88 for simplicity, old fuel you have, you'll get new fuel. Let me ever elaborate on how we get to this number before I make this conclusion without any context. So what we did is we pretty much looked over the last week, what is the proportional fuel that is actually being sold, right? So we have a max fuel price, and if you buy fuel below that max fuel price, you get a bonus. That bonus has been floating around, let's say for simplicity, about 5,000%. So say about a 50x. That has been that is part of that 88, and the other part comes from us pegging from USD to ETH. So previously we were pegging to a certain amount of ETH, and that turned out to be, I think at the start it was about 0.8 dollar cents, but because ETH went down quite a bit in the interim, I think it's now about 0.6, 0.5, somewhere in that range. So you combine those two factors, the 50x from the fuel bonus and the sort of 1.6x from the difference between pegging from USD to ETH, and that'll give you that 88 number.
All right, I think people will either, if they don't understand it now, they'll be able to listen back and presenting the
I don't think like
presenting the formula.
a voice call is the best way of conveying this. What I'll do is I'll write something down in the chat after the town hall. What we looked at the actual fulfilled fuel orders in the last week. We took the average for each fuel type, and then we looked at their prices as a function of the max fuel price. So is it 50x? Is it 60x? We took the fuel type with the highest price, so the lowest multiplier, and that's the one we calculated through with. I think it was Solon at just under or just like above 50x. So the ratio is
well, that will answer,
as I said,
most
almost
of
89
people's questions, at least, I think. And as you said, like we can go into the actual formula and calculation after this, but for the sake of time and like we have, like I said, we have a lot to get through here. We'll keep moving along here. All right, so just because we're on this section regarding unified fuel, and I'm kind of going through, like I said, guys, this is all unified fuel discussion, and this section is directly related to unified fuel, so we're gonna kind of answer questions that are related to these sections. So, if you ask a question in the thread, I'm gonna answer them as quickly as we can, and then at the end, you guys feel free to raise your hands or type questions in the chat, and we'll try to get to as many as we can at the end. So I guess will fuel crates still be redeemable in the new system? And will they receive fuel bonuses because they didn't in the past?
They will be redeemable, and I assume with bonuses, the asker of the question means like the actual number on the NFT.
I think he
or
means
an additional bonus
on top of it, based on the way it worked previously. But obviously, it's not going to work like that anymore. You know.
Exactly. So if you have a fuel crate which says $5, you'll get $5 worth of the new fuel.
Okay. So yeah, like I said, guys, we got a lot of people seem confused. It's okay to be confused. We will clarify all of this. Don't worry. We have time. Me and Perry don't have a hard stop here, so we will get all your questions answered. So no need to stress out. Okay, so will this question comes from another community member? Will Illuvium Zero fuel production remain the same? Will players need a new building to convert fuel into this unified fuel, or yeah, how will that work? The system for selling fuel and such.
Great question. So no, you won't need a new building to convert Illuvium Zero fuel, so Krypton, Hyperion, or Solon into the unified fuel. What it will look like is you'll have a menu option of selecting which and how much of fuel you'd like to burn. And then according to that amount of total fuel burned compared to other landholders, you'll get your share of the 5% of the DAO revenue. We'll dive into that later in more detail, but that's the gist. You'll have a menu option to get to that. In terms of zero fuel production, we actually have, and that was the reason why I mentioned this during our previous section on what the goals are of this update. With this, we have a lot more flexibility to tune Illuvium Zero to make it feel like a better game. So if the community feels that we need the flow of the game to be improved or a bit tight or whatever that feedback is, we now have that flexibility because doing those changes will no longer affect the price of fuel and all.
I mean,
the
I think
derivatives
overall
that we had
simplifying, I know personally from like seeing you guys try to balance, Illuvium Zero with the Overworld and all that stuff. Hopefully this makes all of that a lot easier, So as you mentioned, simplifying things should help. So um, all right, moving on here. The next major topic is the fixed fuel pricing. So instead of this kind of dynamic fuel pricing, we're going to a more fixed model. Um, so I guess here we want to, address why we're going to this model, the concerns about, the price impact on overworld runs, and user acquisition or like acquisition costs of items, alluvials, etc. And what's the rationale behind it? Yeah, so we can dive into the fixed fuel pricing now.
Sure, I think it points at that first main goal I mentioned at the start of our talk, which is ease of acquisition, and also, put in a different way, not giving new players an excuse for thinking, oh, this is just another Web3 game. They try to rug us. What's happening here? We feel that if a new player comes in, buys the in-game currency for Illuvium, logs in the next day and notices that that in-game currency is now worth 20% less. Using an extreme example to make point, but we feel that has dire negative consequences for acquisition. And given that, we've chosen to move to a fixed price
All
model.
right. And I guess people are wondering, like why, I guess. Like, I mean, I know you kind of mentioned some things, but um, the decision to like the questions are mainly around like the decision to detach Illuvium Zero from the global fuel economy, and why does I mean I understand why, at least in my head, I understand why the fixed fuel price, and this was a big debate for a long time about having rails and such, but like why does in your opinion, I guess, or in Alluvium's opinion, why does it, you know, make it easier for user acquisition and onboarding and economic stability and all that to have this fixed fuel pricing?
I mean, we've definitely contemplated variable systems before we made this proposal. And to be fair with you personally, I a part of me regrets not taking that path and sort of diving deep into, the programmable money aspect and the true web3 um, aspect of Alluvium. But at this point, we need to make it as easy as possible for people to come in, play the game, get our NFTs, and we, like, on a deep fundamental level, feel that if we price things in a variable way, and we are how should I say this? We are dependent on the fluctuations of the crypto market, of the GameFi category within that crypto market, of how Illuvium sits within that category. It'll turn people off to a degree where we can't, well, not say can't, where we have a significantly lower chance of getting to that,
Yeah, I mean it's a
big player base
like
we
when
want.
you say it like that, it is a lot of factors to account for. Like between the price of Ethereum, like GameFi itself, the price of ILV, like whatever it may be, like it definitely the price of fuel, it definitely makes it more confusing for people than I think it generally needs to be, right? Like yeah, I think you're spot on there.
And it's a familiarity argument as well, I think, right? A lot of popular games that use in game currencies. We've modeled well, we've given it our own twist, but we've definitely looked at what popular games are doing in terms of in-game currencies, bundle pricing, how their stores look, how they use their in-game currencies, and try to look at that, implement our own thing, give it our own spin. I think on this aspect until, and again, like I personally, I regret this. I wish we had the room to put a really fat web-free cherry on top of this cake, but I think we need to work on the
Yeah.
cake first
I
before
mean,
we go to the cherry.
I like the analogy there. I like baking myself, so um, okay. let's uh, let's get into these questions in this section. So I guess multiple of these questions are, about how we came to, fuel pricing. Because as you can go check out, there's obviously some pricing about ADR runs in there and fuel in general and how it will work with the conversion. So, this question is, if each fuel's worth a penny, does that mean stage 3 runs cost 8.99? Why did we land on certain numbers for fuel, and how did we come to that basically? And how will it affect long-term player costs?
Sure, great question, and judging by the chat, also something that people want answered. So I'll dive into it. Why we did this is the following, right? We when we launched, we always had this model in our mind, and what I like about this update, and I didn't mention this in the goals, but I'll mention it now, is that, and Karen mentioned this as well, we want to go back to this high transparency mode where we're leaking everything, we're sharing our thoughts, we're sharing what direction we want to go to with the community, because that has proven to be very useful in the past. And we've been sitting on this for, I'd say, a bit too long even, and I'm very glad to finally be able to talk about it. So previously we had a price target in mind for how much it should cost you to get complete set 1 alluvials, and that would be very focused among the tier 5, especially stage 3 alluvials. And that target was always set relative to the max fuel price, right? So if the demand was massive to a degree that supply couldn't keep up, it would cost you $1,500. That was our target to get all set 1 alluvials. Now, in our mind back then, and obviously, we don't have to run circles around this, the demand wasn't as high as we anticipated. In our mind, we've always had, okay, that's a bit too much. We can't assume that. We'll have a target in mind that says 25% is our sort of anticipated target for getting set 1 alluvial. So 25% of $1,500 is $375. So that is always and even now, and we'll dive into this maybe later, that's the anticipated acquisition cost of catching them all, right? So people look at the new stage prices, right? Stage 3, $8.99. What the hell? Stage 2, $149. What does that mean? That means that those runs have been buffed to a degree where you'll find much more, much rarer things within them. To hit this sort of, okay, if you want to complete the entirety of set 1, we anticipate on average you can get lucky, you can get unlucky, $375 for auto drone. This used to be the target for Overworld. Now, Kieran sort of came to me and said, hey, we want Overworld to be the more lucrative way of acquiring alluvials. And he came to me, and I think he mentioned this publicly as well, with a 20% benefit. So the anticipated acquisition cost of catching them all is $300. But again, a large, like majority, I'd say about 70-80% of that cost is tier 5 stage 3. So those are the ones that are the most expensive. If you filter those out, you're at a sub $100 level. If you compare that to something like, I don't know, Hearthstone or other collectible games, I think we're in the range of where a typical gamer would spend to complete their collection for that set. And one thing I'll touch as well, one big change we made to come to this pricing is that previously it was always the case that we balanced around fusion, right? The most lucrative path to get to catch them all was fusing. If you wanted a Ramfire, sure, you could get super lucky, find a Ramfire in a stage 3 run. Probably not, because we made it way too rare. But the way to get to that was finding 9 Renfies, leveling them up, and then fusing them. We've sort of flipped that on its head. We feel that for the bigger moments, the actual ripping the gamified pack opening experience, let's just call it that, because before the MMO is out, I think that's what Overworld still is. Getting a good card or getting a good Alluvial is what we want to go for. So we flip that on its head, and fusion is now a sort of catch-up mechanic or a backup mechanic. Sure, maybe you got really unlucky and you really want that Ramfire and you have some Ramfies lying around. Sure, you can fuse, but it'll cost you, in relative terms, quite a bit. It's much more lucrative, that's the way we balanced it, to just do another stage 3 run and you'll find that Ramfire.
Yeah. No, I mean,
Long answer,
I
but
think it answered a
did
lot of
that answer your
questions in
question?
one. I guess the next obvious question is, this do I guess I mean the question just straight up is, can pricing be adjusted to encourage more participation? But that's assuming a lot of things, but I guess the gist of the question is, this is obviously still a what's the word I'm looking for, like a fluid thing, like that we're taking feedback on and going to possibly could be adjusted, I would say.
Yeah. No. I think part of this sort of radical transparency is it goes both ways. If you guys give us feedback, I'll read it at least, and yeah, this isn't set in stone. We upped the range between the different stages of runs by quite a bit. We used to have 3x, and now it went to 6x. The goal for this is to still cater to this, I don't have as much time to play, but I do have a bit more money to spend. I'd still like that overworld experience.
Yeah,
I'll just do a few higher stage runs.
The next question is kind of funny, because I think when we were coming up with the naming convention for the Unified Fuel name, I think I mentioned calling it ETH, didn't I? Or like, yeah. So somebody was just wondering, like, if we're no longer linking
so,
at
yeah,
all, like, why don't we just call it ETH? And there was a lot of good reasons why we didn't. I mean, I remember somebody telling me, like, it gets confusing at that point where you're like buying an in-game currency with ETH called ETH. So yeah, I mean, I guess like the simplest answer is, fuel was already something we used. I mean, maybe you have a better answer than I do, but yeah, I don't think it's a big deal what the name is. Like, it's fuel. It's just fuel now. So yeah, like
Exactly.
yeah.
I think I don't need to dive into why we didn't call it
I
Eve.
had the same question though, Mosine. Okay, so don't feel bad.
But
Like I thought it was a
yeah,
decent name as well. um, but yeah, all right, cool. So yeah, that section I think we're pretty much good on. Again, guys, like we are gonna have time after this. Me and Perry are here all day for you guys to rip on us and ask questions. Like or don't rip on Perry. You can rip on me, but Perry's a nice guy.
no worries.
Okay,
You
so
can
the
rip
next
on me
part
as well.
is, Overworld
That's
and
what I'm here
automated
for.
drone runs, the future of alluvial acquisition. So this section, basically what are automated drone runs? How are they going to compare? You kind of touched on a little bit on what Kieran mentioned to you. You know, addressing concerns around alluvial availability and cost effectiveness of automated drone runs. And if you guys stick around, Jeremy has given me the okay to show you guys some automated drone runs. So at least that's, something cool to look forward to. But yeah, we can jump into this section, Perry, if you're so inclined.
Sure. So I think I touched on automated drone runs and how they compare to the overworld already in terms of pricing. Um, so again, like price target for automated drone runs to catch them all is 375, and for the overworld it's 300. Just to reiterate, from a goal perspective, it is again this sort of I don't have the time to play Overworld, but I really want to get all Holo Alluvials, right? Then playing Overworld, even with the new balance changes, getting to that Holo part is going to be difficult. And a much more time effective way of reaching that is to do automated drone runs. And I'll be honest with you, I wasn't like I when we came up with this and it was announced internally, I was in this isn't for me, right? I can just play Overworld and I can get my Alluvials that way. But I think the way we set it up and the way it looks and the way it feels, and we'll dive into it later, perhaps just before the demo, is turned out really cool. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to people's feedback on that. But the goal is just that, right? I want to have that beyond simplified, beyond experience. Rip open a pack and get some alluvials. Maybe I don't like Overworld. Maybe I do like Overworld, but I just don't have as much time to play. Maybe my team isn't as good yet, and I want to shortcut to stage 3.
Yeah.
That's
I mean,
why
for me
automated drone
personally,
runs
like
are
I'm very like time poor. I have a lot of things going on in life, and just testing automated drone runs is definitely um, a very cool way to acquire alluvials. Like I even being here at East Denver, like I talked to several people that have played the game, and one guy was just like, I don't have time to like go into the overworld and collect all these creatures. He's like, I love Pokemon and I love the collection aspect of it. He's like, but I just don't have time to do it, you know? So I think this fixes that for some of those types of people,
Mm-hmm.
like it's very easy to buy a pack, open it, and be happy, uh, versus having to go into the overworld and collect them, which is still fun, but yeah, not everyone has the amount of time required. So, okay. So, I guess we've kind of touched on some of these, so we can kind of go through them quick. Once drone runs are implemented, will Overworld be eliminated? And you kind of touched on this, but there you go. No. No. Okay. So, will
No.
alluvials captured in the overworld be distinguishable from drone run alluvials? So, actually, this I think is a decent idea from a metadata point of view, which is what I assume they're asking. But yeah, current implementation, is it any different, distinguishable?
I actually don't know for sure if we have a metadata that can
I think like the reason
differentiate.
somebody brought this up, and I probably meant to bring it up
Um,
internally, and I haven't yet. If you don't know about it, or if I haven't yet, but the whole idea was is for like things like the hunting
mhm.
competitions we do and stuff like that. Like you would be able to distinguish people who are actually playing the overworld versus people who are doing ADRs, and then you could um, cater competitions to each group, right? Yeah. So, but currently, no,
Sure,
basically,
sure.
is the answer.
I like if I would know, I would tell you. I don't think so, but I can't give you that 100%.
I want to
Maybe
say no,
someone like
but if
Jeremy
Jeremy
can or
Stewart
Stuart can
in here
tell
and
me.
the answer, like, we will relay the message. Oh, I might have just got a DM, and it is, mm, yeah, somewhat. So basically, yes, it will be distinguishable in some way. So, yes. Okay, let's continue on here. It will be distinguishable in some way. So, uh, yeah, what that is exactly, we can communicate at a later date about it. Okay, so this question is related to, I wonder if we should save this for down below. No, it fits right here, I guess. This is all related to the blog and where we discussed things that are not going to be craftable anymore, or such as weapons, armor, shards, equipment. Can we just dive into what's going on with all that? And some players are obviously asking what we're going to do to help make things right for people that have crafted all this stuff. um, yeah, so like shards, equipment, weapons, armor, all that stuff.
Okay, so shall we just do the
Yeah,
full
yeah.
pass of all the
This is all
collections we
recorded,
have,
so people can
get it
go
out
back
of the
and find
way,
the answers. Definitely.
and just discuss it shortly? Okay. So yeah, as in the blog, and I'll try and add some nuance to the why and how of it. But the first section is very simple: alluvials, land, anything related to beyond, the cosmetics for arena, and even xenoprints and obelisk codes. We won't um, change those. Um, I'd even say that Alluvials are, and we'll touch on this maybe later, they are sort of the cornerstone NFT collection. Um, Maybe we'll add to this at the end, but for example, one of the reasons why we're going to have the discussion about the next NFT collections is that we don't want to hamper the design of the MMO around these collections rather than the other way around. The exception to that is Alluvials, right? The MMO needs to be built around Alluvials. That's the entire premise of the entire of the IP of that's the big collection for us. Um, and I think that gives us a good bridge to dive into weapon suits and drone attachments. We want to give them utility for the MMO, but we don't want to design the MMO around those collections. We want to maybe fit them,
Yeah.
design their utility around the MMO, if that makes sense. Um, I put those collections in a certain order in the blog, namely weapons, suits, and drone attachments. And I think that order is important because I think the earlier in that order it shows up, the more we want to work towards giving it utility within the MMO. I'll put this idea out there, and I think as Kieran has echoed as well, given our radical transparency. I hope that not everything I say in here, any idea that we're playing around with, is going to be taken as law. But for example, one of the ideas we've been playing around with for weapons in suits is that they could act as progression boosts during the leveling phase of the MMO. So, for example, in World of Warcraft, you have this system called heirlooms. They give you an XP boost. They are very powerful weapons during the leveling experience of the MMO. But in the end game, they sort of lose most of their utility because we don't want to pre-give people power where it matters, right? That's one idea, though, so don't take that as a given. But those are the kinds of ideas we're playing with for weapons and suits. Again, I think weapons fill the MMO much better. The art is pretty much done. They are very distinguishable. You'll be able to show off that kind of thing within the MMO. I think weapons make a lot of sense. I think suits are a step below that in terms of making sense. And then lastly, drone attachments will have utility economically within the overworld, given what we've discussed before. Not saying we don't want to do anything with them in the MMO, but they are definitely lowest position on that list for a reason, because they have current utility, whereas weapons and suits, not so much. Outside of, you'll be able to use them within the overworld still. We won't be closing their NFT status with this update. That will be done in a future update, but it is something we're planning, right? Their total supply will be capped. So I don't know when this update is going to occur, so I won't name a timeline, but when that updates occur, if you own one of the last remaining Dreadmarsh malls, for example, I think that could be a very rare collector's item, even without utility, and especially for weapons, it is really something we want to give utility for.
Yeah, totally. Like, I think
Shall we
people
move
might have
on to the
missed that
others,
we're going to go
Rich, or
through
do we have...
each of these collections, guys. So in chat, you can just we're going to go through each of the collections, and he's going to talk about them. So yeah, let's just keep going through them.
All right. So the next section is blueprints and skins, and I think we've had this discussion within the community, or at least I had, is given their current functionality of only being applicable to a certain suit line, doesn't make sense in the current iteration of Arena Gauntlet. And I don't think it will make sense, like we'll not design gauntlets around it. I think for Ascendant Survival, it made more sense. But this is pretty much the category of we're gonna have to do something about these NFT collections. We think they're very important. Skins as our ranger skins in that sense as our main cosmetic line, and blueprints as the sort of precursor to those. We need to take them seriously. We want to take them seriously, but we have to do something about them because I think currently they're not working for us. We'll transition these in a future update. Definitely something I want the incoming co-game directors for the MMO input on. I think we have a decent system in mind for how we'd want to tackle them in Arena, but I want to keep that future in mind before we settle on a transition. So I guess a TBD for these collections, but I hope we've made clear that we take these collections seriously and we want to do something with them.
Did I miss? I mean, you're done there. You're going to cover shards too, I'm guessing. Okay.
Yeah. So lastly, we have the ones that will be phased out. Equipment, essences, ingots, gems, and shards. In terms of utility, they pretty much won't change. Instead of living on the blockchain, they will live on the backend, on our servers. You'll still be able to craft things with them. You'll still be able to capture things with them. But the obvious downside of it is you won't be able to trade them. What we're gonna try and do with this new overworld is balance the overworld in such a way that acquiring these, especially shards, is still feeling interesting. So yeah, one of the main feedback points I'd love to hear from you guys is given that future phasing out, what can we do with these? I'd even say that for equipment, we might see. It's an idea. It's one I feel pretty strongly about. I still feel that when a new player comes into the overworld and is, I'd say, forced to either buy equipment or do a few stage 1.0 runs to get equipment, isn't a great new player experience. So that either requires a rework or something else. I think gems, ingots, and essences are not the most sensitive ones, but I can definitely understand that shards are quite pivotal, and we'll try and make that transition as smooth as possible. Note that we have also, the overworld has been changed that everything except the travel cost and fusing is free. So you no longer need to pay fuel to cure a shard. You no longer need to pay fuel to craft an item. You just need the ingredients. So ingots or gems or essences, whatever that may be.
Just because I see it in chat here, and like, yeah, like I guess personally, like I feel for people that feel like Philo mentioned, like no trading of shards, which like is something that I do personally, which is buy shards, off the marketplace. Like, could it be a possibility to have like an in-game non-NFT marketplace, right, for these types of things?
I mean, it's definitely a possibility. Let's see what this will turn out like, what the community,
Yeah.
how they react, and we'll consider it. Again, like when did I rebalance this? I think a few days ago to just give out. I asked the community for how do you feel about shards in terms of their supply. I think the general consensus was low tier is abundant and high tier is rare. We've tried to rebalance for that in the sense that if you want to capture high tier alluvials, you won't be needing to go to the marketplace. You can find
Yeah.
them yourselves, but obviously you won't be drowning in them still. So that's a balance
Okay.
we'll have to find on Testnet. And again, like the underlying reason for phasing out these collections, which might be good to touch on, is I guess the crazy amount of minting that happens with a good amount of popularity when we launch is one reason, but it's also an acquisition argument where someone goes into the game, and either we have to design the MMO around something like shards. Let's take shards as the most typical example. Or a new player, or we don't design the MMO around shards, and a new player comes into the Illuvium ecosystem, jumps on the Alluvidex, and sees shards. Now, obviously, we post, hey, this is for Overworld and this is for Arena. But I don't think for that optimal acquisition process for sort of the amount of people we're going to need to reach, shards existing will be a benefit
And like you said, like I don't know, I think a major point that you touched on is making sure to give the MMO the freedom to, know, design be designed in a way that it's not attached to these other things that we already have. Yeah, like I think that's a very yeah, obviously
Exactly.
alluvials, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Except
Everything
alluvials,
else I
for sure.
kind of
Yeah.
feel like like it's not, I don't know if expendable is the right word, but like at least adjustable, I think would be a better word, like for making sure that the MMO is the best thing it can be, not forcing it into any predestined paths, basically. So yeah, I agree with you there, definitely.
Mhm.
Um, so does that cover all the collections then? I think pretty much. Okay. Um,
I think we've
okay.
had
So
all of
then
them.
off
Yeah,
of the
that was it.
collections now. Let's see. Why are we reverting to showing stats pre-capture instead of only revealing full stats afterwards? I'm guessing is what this question is. Uh,
I'm not
I mean,
as
I know it was a
across
bug
this
currently that it
as
didn't start showing, but I
um,
don't know the final implementation. I don't know if you do either. It's not exactly related to unified fuel, so I don't exactly expect you to answer it.
I was under the impression, I can't talk for the entire aggregate, but the vast majority
I
of
would
the
say
community
that's
wants to
probably a
revert
fair
to showing
assessment.
stats.
Yeah, definitely.
And
Yeah,
because of
like I
that, we
said, the
want to revert
current
to
the
showing
current thing that's
stats.
going on is a bug. So I'm not sure if it was Philo. You're here. It was your question. It might have been. I might have got it typed in wrong or something. But yeah, we can move on to the next section basically, and this is about economic adjustments, landholder revenue, and fuel burning. So obviously, as everyone knows, 5% of fuel sales go to landholders. Based on the fuel burned by the Dow or burned to the Dow. Fuel storage in the interim is a concern of landholders, and I know some questions were brought up recently, like right before this, about increasing fuel storage and fuel burning and potential mechanics for that in the future. So yeah, we can go into landholder revenue and all that stuff, and then I have some questions here as well.
Yeah. So all of the ETH that the DAO makes, we take 5% of that and we send that to landholders according to that big IIP law that we built during the land sale. Um, how that within that 5%, the amount of ETH gets proportionally distributed according to the amount of fuel burned. I mentioned this during, I think, the start of our talk, but I'll reiterate because I think a lot of people joined in the interim. Is you'll have a menu option within IZ where you can choose which and how many of, or which fuel type and how many of that fuel type you want to burn, and that will get sent into the ether. It'll give you a score, and the amount of ETH will get proportionally distributed according to your score and other landholders' score. So you'll see the amounts, sort of the percentual amount you're due from the ETH that we earn in that period. I think that's it. Regarding fuel storage, I don't have a definitive answer yet. I chatted to Jay, who is the product owner of Zero, and we're definitely considering it. We just need to check how much effort it is to update everyone's storage, but we feel it is fair. So I'll keep you
Okay,
guys on the loop
so
for that.
yeah, so that answered how fuel sales is
Does that answer your
distributed. That
question,
answered
Rich?
that. And then if fuel storage limits could be raised, you answered that. We don't know yet, but we're looking into it. So something that we will keep you guys updated. And land production rates, will that remain the same? So that they will still be able to produce enough fuel for a daily stage 2 run. So I'm guessing they're basing this off, previous implications on, what land would produce so you could do runs with it. So yeah.
Exactly. So previously we had that you per tier of plot you had, we would, if you build it all out and you optimize it, there was a certain amount of fuel you could get to per day. You could send that to yourself, and that would guarantee you a certain amount of stage runs. We've sort of pegged that away from the amount of runs you can do and pegged it to the revenue the DAO actually makes, right? So if we make a lot of revenue, then you'll be able to do much more runs. If we make little revenue, then you'll be able to do less runs. I've seen a question a lot in the community today and previously on why we made that decision. And I thought a bit about this, to be fair, and I think if we didn't do that, something would have to give, and the something that would have to give would be the NFT collection of Alluvials and the rarity and the acquisition cost and what have you. We'll dive into that later on how we're going to approach Alluvials, because they, as our main collection, I think they need more love, they need more care, but yeah, your amount of fuel you'll be getting from your IZ plot will be tied to the amount of revenue the DAO makes.
Sorry, can you just say that one more time?
The amount of fuel, like actual new fuel you'll get from your plots, will be tied to the amount of revenue that the DAO makes.
Just for the
rather
people
than
in the back,
a set amount.
Yeah, I think that answers that question pretty clearly. I guess a lot of this is, there's going to be a lot of questions that come up during this, so we'll just keep moving, and I'll kind of push some of these till the end. Getting into now, that answers all the questions we had, at least currently. Like, you guys, just so you know, I took a lot of questions from a thread we created, so if I'm not answering your question directly right now, don't worry. We're going to have time at the end. I'm following the chat, and we can also bring you guys up, and you can ask live. So don't worry if we're not getting to it right now. A lot of these are hypotheticals, though, and that's why we're doing this testing, is to, find out what works, what you guys want. And so, like Perry said, don't take anything he says here as, finality or set in stone. All of this is obviously subject to DAO improvements and, whatever the DAO wants and all that. So don't take anything we say as set in stone for forever. So things are always subject to change. So, but moving on. So the MMO and alluvial utility, and where does this fit in? Clarification around the role of the arena in the overworld. Obviously, the overworld is going to be turning into the MMO light experience, but what's the long-term utility of alluvials going to look like? Because as you said, and I agree with you that alluvials as our NFT collection, they do need more love. You've discussed several times, I need a reason personally. I love collecting them, but I need another reason to use them, to want them, to get more of them, so between long-term utility of alluvials, other NFT collections, we've already talked about the future of shards and equipment, so we can skip over that. But I guess let's dive into alluvials and how we see that, playing out in the MMO experience.
Sure. So we actually have a, let's call it, monetization model vision set up for the MMO, and how Alluvials and all other aspects of the ecosystem tie into that. And well, one reason why I'm not presenting this today is because, well, we have plenty of stuff to talk about. But the other reason we're not discussing this today is because, we have these veteran co-game directors coming in very, very soon. I think they start on Monday, so sooner than soon. And these are definitely the type of guys I want to have a good long chat with on what they think, how this could work, how it would tie into progression systems. Um, but again, in terms of sense of priority, like, Alluvials are our top NFT collection, and as Rich said, they need love, they need care. We need to take them very, very seriously, and therefore, it's the only collection that the MMO will be built around, rather than Alluvials being, adjusted for the MMO. But yeah, a big part of my answer to the question is just, I I have that vision. I've shared it internally with Kieran, Aaron, Roger, a lot of other
Maybe.
guys. I think, Rich, have you seen it? Maybe not. Um, we've landed on what we think will be good, but let's have the
Yeah.
new guys have a look at it as well. I, I know I said radical transparency at the start of the talk, and I think we should still abide by that. Leaks, not only from art but also from systems. But I think with this veteran system designer coming in on literally Monday, it'll change a lot between now and him having had a look at it and
Yeah.
tweaking it
And
if
I haven't
necessary.
even met these guys yet, so I'm sure you guys will. I'm sure our community will give them a warm welcome, and they will be happy at some point to do a town hall, everybody, and answer all your questions. But yeah, like let's try and make sure we give them that warm alluvium welcome that everyone gets, as soon as they get here. So we will try and get those guys in a talk soon. Like I said, I haven't even spoke to them yet either. So um, yeah, it'll be good to get their insights as well.
Yeah. And then for Overworld and Arena, Overworld and Autodrone will act as the main ways of acquiring Alluvials. So, you pay the new unified fuel, and in return, you, either through Autodrone or Overworld runs, you can build your collection of Alluvials. You can have a look at the collection page to see how many you have, what you're still missing, which ones are holos, etc., etc. And for now, Arena will be the main use case for those Alluvials. We've read, where's the use case for Alluvials in Arena, and we've gone so hard on this, or at least so hard. We really want to try out this current monetization model, which we haven't given the time of day yet, which is the free to play plus cosmetics plus Leviathan. And we've also announced we want to commit to a battle pass system to not only function as a progression system, but also a monetization model, as well as a way to earn specific cosmetics. We'll dive into that later. But we want to give that model a proper shot, right? With the relaunch of Arena. And we can see after that what we need to adjust. But for now, Overworld and Autodrone is the main supply, and Arena is the main use case demand driver.
I'm just hoping I have better luck getting dark hollows in ADR runs than than the overworld. I've still never seen a dark holo in the overworld personally. So just bad luck, I guess. Yes, yes, that's so. Well,
Pity timer, Rich. Don't
speaking on
worry.
the pity timer, will
Your luck will come.
does that apply to overworld runs as well? I guess what this is actually a good question because I've seen a few questions around this, but like, what will be other than the obvious advantage of I think you mentioned like a 20% better chance in the overworld of alluvials, like what other differences will there be? Like someone mentioned or Philo mentioned, he has to get a shard and he has to go spend time. Like so is that 20% advantage it, or is there more advantages to doing it that way versus a drone run, you know?
The 20% is sort of the benefit for not having to spend the time to do all that. In that calculation sits everything, right? So the average acquisition cost of getting a shard, the average acquisition cost of doing X runs and getting that specific alluvial you want, etc., etc. Auto drone gives you that much quicker, but also costs
Okay.
25% more if you turn it around.
Let's see here. What do we got as far as other questions here? Can you talk about Battle Pass anymore? I guess. And yeah, can you talk about that? Can you elaborate on the Battle Pass at all, or do you not have all that information yet? Or
I can talk about it a little bit. So I think I mentioned it just now, but I'll reiterate because I think it's important. Why add a battle pass? I think simply two key goals, which is one, we're sort of missing this progression system within gauntlets, and I think a battle pass fulfills that goal simply but effectively. And two, it acts as a way of monetization. In return, players can get specific, really cool cosmetics. There will be a free track and a paid track. So even players who join the battle pass season and play a bunch of gauntlet can get really cool rewards. But obviously, the
okay.
ones from the paid track will be a little bit better.
Let's see here. What do we got next? What additional free to play progressions might be available in the MMO Lite version? Yeah, exactly. Like yeah.
Yeah,
This
this
is
one
more related
is
to
too
the
early.
new guys coming in
I
when
don't know.
yeah, yeah,
Exactly. I just don't know. We have ideas, sure, but these ideas are so up in the clouds that
yeah.
sharing these here won't do anyone
Let's
any favors.
see. How does fuel change fit into the MMO? I think that's still too related to like I said, a lot of these MMO questions, you guys, like, these are going to be pushed off until we get our new game designers in here. And as Perry said, they're coming Monday. And like I said, once I meet them, we will try and schedule a town hall with them, let them get settled in. I know you guys will all be super nice and accommodating to them. So yeah, we'll give them some time to settle in, and then we'll be able to take, I'm sure, a bunch of questions MMO related, and probably a month's time, I would say, once they get settled in.
Mm-hmm. One more question I'm reading in our list
Yep.
is if Arena Battle Pass rewards will be tradable NFTs. I don't think I touched on that yet. The answer to that is both. So, on one hand, we feel that making all of them NFTs will lose some of the meaningfulness of said rewards, right? A new player comes in, I can grind the hell out of gauntlets and get the max reward, or I can just buy it off someone. So the answer is both, right? We want them both to be meaningful, but we'll also throw in some NFTs, which are specific.
Well, really, we unless there's some like I know you mentioned a few things, but I don't have them in my list here. But if there things that you feel that we didn't go over that you want to cover, otherwise we can start asking the community questions or answering some that I've seen at least.
Do we want to cover Autodrone? Well, let's do
Yeah,
questions
yeah,
first, maybe
totally.
then cover Autodrone and
The
then do the
problem,
demo.
yeah. If somebody has a question, I know somebody already has a hand up, but if you guys have a question and you guys want to come up and ask,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we'll at least answer. So, I guess Anubis's question is, what will happen with the alluvials without good stats? Are we going to be introducing any kind of burn mechanism? Do you know that yet, or is that more MMO related question?
No, actually, I think that is something we should have covered as well. So just to quickly touch on, and this is in the blog as well if you want to reread it. I've put down 3 points of, this is what still needs to happen on our list. One is the battle pass, and we just covered it. And the other ones are, this point of taking care of our main NFT collections in the form of alluvials. I think we should definitely explore a meaningful burning mechanism. The one that keeps coming back both internally and externally is burning for XP. I think we need to have a look, especially with the new runs, how people can get XP. Also, I'd like to sort of evaluate it against the MMO before we make the final decision. I think it's a very delicate one. But it's definitely something we want to do. I think it's a great, not per se the experience, even though it's our top viable option at the moment. We need some meaningful burning mechanism for our main collection. So that's something we want to commit to. And the other point is enhancing alluvial utility. I mentioned as well, we want to try this free to play cosmetics Leviathan plus battle pass model for Arena. But we also acknowledge that that doesn't cover all bases. So we're working on, not per se a plan B, but additional enhancements of alluvial utility. Even in the future, not everyone is gonna play Arena, right? Not everyone is gonna. Maybe some people are gonna play Arena and just want to hit the leaderboards. So I think Alluvials need more utility, even if Arena goes absolutely mad. So that is something we want to take seriously as well, and we're already sort of in the process of, beyond ideation of those systems.
Garf listed out some questions here, but I think some of them may have been answered. At least, like this is kind of I don't know. The question is, it was previously stated that players would be compensated for already crafted weapons and armor. Could you provide more details? Which I think you covered, honestly, in your example with the, what did you say? I forget what you called it, the World of Warcraft items.
Yeah, I mean that's an idea, but maybe something to highlight as well is that we've been in a economic situation where, remember I mentioned this target cost to catch them all of $1,500 at max fuel price. We've been at 50x lower than that. So you could catch them all for $30. And as I've told you and the people here, we've shoved that up to 300 because we think that's a viable medium between $30 is too cheap for such an important collection, especially for the really rare ones like tier 5 stage 3s. But our previous targets were too high as well. That does mean, though, that the acquisition cost for Alluvials just went up by an incredible amount, probably 10x. So, and with that, the crafting cost for weapons and suits still went up. So, anyone that wants to craft a weapon and suit beyond today will effectively play more USD than people who've done it before. So people who played the game and played Overworld runs, I think there's definitely, from a acquisition cost
Yeah.
perspective, there's definitely a quite significant.
Thank you, Garth, for collecting some of these questions. I guess some of them are likely from the community here in the chat, but this has to do with this fuel conversion rate, which is how they're wondering how we came to this conclusion of doing the snapshot a week ago, and how that's representative of 7 months of fuel fluctuations and the fuel bonuses and such, and yeah, like how I guess the complaint or the concern is that it's not exactly fair, I guess, for that fuel conversion rate that they're getting. So I guess I know we're gonna post the formula, so they might not have a complete grasp on it yet, but I guess maybe you can kind of answer that a little bit more.
Sure, I think, as you say,
Yeah.
like for the mathy presentation, let's go do that in chat. I don't think voice is a good medium for that. But what I will say is we didn't really snapshot it per se. We took an average of a week. So we looked at all the fulfilled orders for the last week for fuel for each type, and we took the average price for those orders. So it's not really a snapshot; it's more like a running average. Um, you could make the argument that that running average was not enough, or maybe it was too much. Um, but yeah, we were looking for the sort of true price of fuel, the fuel price that people wanted to pay for. I think the first thing I wrote down when we talked about this migration was preservation of purchasing power from a USD perspective. So if you were to purchase $10 of fuel yesterday, then you would have the same purchasing power in a USD terms as today. But obviously, the stage runs will go up in price. But stuff like cosmetics,
Possibly
other
beyond wave 4, I
ventures
guess,
will
would make
stay the
sense.
same.
Yeah. So everything that will be purchased
Beyond
with
wave
fuel,
4,
which in the
exactly.
future should be everything, right? Mostly everything, I'll say. But yeah, I guess elaborating on that even more. This is more of a technical question, I guess. Maybe Stuart can shoot me a DM on the side or something. But yeah, like, will our fuel history purchase come back to the Alluvidex so that we can calculate the amount of ETH we spent to determine for ourselves how much new fuel actually is costing us? Stuart may be able to help us there.
I can't
I'm
answer
sure
that
it's like a
question for you.
technical thing, but okay. How about this? Suits and skins were always used as a big selling point for Illuvium Zero and Land. How can suits and skins not being NFTs be justified since players can only wear one at a time? How, I guess, how will that make IZ landholders whole? I guess you know
Yeah, great question. And I think this is one of the things we need to figure out. And not saying we should take a lot of time, but we should definitely think about it deeply and a lot, is how we're going to do this suit migration process. We think it is worth it that in the future, right, when we have the MMO and even in the near future with just Arena, it will make much more sense that a suit skin can be applied to any suits. And with that, we need to think of a migration scheme that makes IC players happy and that makes Blueprint farmers happy. It's not an easy problem, and we'll do it
Yeah, I mean,
with you guys in mind.
my main problem is
In
I just
discussion
need
with
all
you
the
guys.
skins. Like if you guys want to just give them to me, send them to me. I still need them all.
Exactly. Yeah. Are you gonna show them off
The
in the
suit
demo as
skins.
well, Rich, or am I asking too much?
I don't have them.
For the collection.
I only have a few. So yeah. There's definitely people that have way more than me. Kappa's supposed to be farming my suit skins. I don't know. He's playing my land, so you know. All right. Okay, so I think we covered a lot of questions, at least that I've found. So we
Mm-hmm.
can get into automated drone runs. Or wait, yeah.
Do
We
we
can
want
ask
to?
to see if anybody.
Are
Hold
there
on,
any
Kieran's
audience
messaging me
questions? Or?
here. Um. What is the concern? Here's a question. It's from Kieran. hopefully, you can answer it. I think it's somebody that messaged him. I'm sure, but yeah, we talked about
Okay.
in the blog. It says that users will not be able to transfer fuel from their land to the overworld anymore. Is this like is this forever, or
Mm-hmm.
what is the concern around doing that? Like, why? I know there was concern initially even doing it. That's why we didn't allow it, and then we did, and now we don't again. So I guess what is the answer there? You know.
Yeah. I have two answers. So first of all, this sort of migration process of burning fuel, you getting a portion of the ETH the DAO makes, and you can then do with that ETH whatever you want. You can use it to buy fuel. You can, buy coins with it. You can do whatever. We are aiming to get that cadence of that process down to a manageable level. If we make that, let's say, daily, I think it'll get a little extreme, right? When a beyond wave hits, I think everyone will suddenly be playing IZ a lot because that period is very short. If we make it too long, then people won't have access to their ETH to do things with. So I think our target for that process will be a week. But we won't release in this update with that cadence. I'm not exactly sure what cadence we want to release with, but it won't be a week. So that's answer one. And then the other answer is from a sort of economic stability perspective, if we give runs to landholders at a certain amount of fuel, then even if we make no revenue, those landholders will be able to get a bunch of alluvials that might not be aligned with the price that other people pay for them. And we need to be really careful about that balance. From a vision perspective, I am, and I said this to a lot of people today in the chat as well, I am not opposed to reintroducing a system like this, but we need to be very careful about how we tune it. And it sort of goes, well, maybe not goes against the acquisition part of the goals for the unified fuel system, but it goes against upkeep and some other arguments. So I think also from us expending effort in complex economical systems, let's work on the product. Let's make sure the product is really good, and then as I said the metaphor before, we work on the cake, and then after we work on the big fat Web3 cherry on top. Again, I personally really regret not having this grand automated system that will do this, but I think the arguments for acquisition and for upkeep speak for themselves. So yeah, not now. We're starting simple, but again, I'm not opposed to reintroducing it to a
Yeah.
controllable
I mean,
degree
like Kieran said,
in the future.
Kieran just said it in chat. You burn the fuel, you get the ETH, you buy the fuel, you enter the overworld. Yes, it's. I mean,
Exactly.
I feel like it's still the same amount of steps.
Yeah.
Like even in its implementation that was previous, you had to send the fuel to the overworld, then you had to go into the overworld run. I feel like it's still the same amount of steps, but I guess maybe one removed. But yeah, like I see people's concerns with it. Yeah, like you said, we'll monitor it and we'll see. Cart before the horse, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, let's see here. We have one guy with his hand up. He's had it up the whole time. Let's see if he's ready to ask a question. King Sooniverse, I'm inviting you up now. And then if you do have a question, we'll try to get it answered. And if not, we're going to move into doing these automated drone runs. I don't think he's going to have a question. He might have just put his hand up since the beginning. Yeah, it does happen. I was falling asleep
Fell
last
asleep
night.
with his hand
So,
up. Happens.
all right. Yeah, I don't know. It's a bot, Garf said. Somebody kick that bot. What are you doing, Garf? All right. Well, yeah. So, what do you want to go into about drone runs then? Do you want to explain it and talk about it a little bit, and then I'm going to try and prep something to get us streaming?
Yeah, sure. You work on that. I'll give a quick intro. So yeah, just to reiterate, even though we've covered it quite a lot at the beginning of this town hall, why Autodrone? It's our go-to way of obtaining alluvials with maximum speed, rather than going into overworld runs and going through this time expenditure of collecting alluvials, even though it's more lucrative from a money base. We also give you the option to pay slightly more, but get them much quicker. We've sort of drawn on the lessons we've had from both Beyond and Overworld. So Beyond from a sort of how do we make a cool pack opening experience, and then Overworld from a what feels good, what is rare, how much rarity should we put in stuff. We've come to two types of Autodrone runs. One being sort of this base, stage one, we call it charged. You'll get 8 alluvials. One of them will be a guaranteed rare, one of them will be a T0, and it will be priced at 99 cents. So this is definitely for the people who just want to rip open packs. And then for the people who really want to save time, we offer a premium option. We call it the Hyper Run. And those will get 8 alluvials as well. But 3 of them will be an empowered guaranteed rare. We'll dive into that in a little bit. Or maybe we can just show it. Also be 1 T1, and that is priced at $11.99 currently. We have a pity counter system. It's one of the things we wanted to improve on from Beyond, because it's been working really well for other pack opening experiences. And we've tied it to finish. So if you don't get a holo or dark holo within your auto drone, a pity counter will start running, and the chances of a holo or dark holo will increase the longer you're going on a streak without any. And the cool thing about this is that it sort of sticks with you for the entire auto drone run. So, say you've had a really unlucky streak, you've had 20 packs, and you've got no hollows or dark hollows. That means your chances for the entire auto drone results will be much higher for hollows and dark hollows. And we've sort of balanced that around what the holo and dark holo probabilities are in Overworld. So they should be around roughly the same. If you really want to get deep into the nitty gritty, I really advise you to read the blog. There it says, you know, tier 5 has in that run has so much percentage of occurring. If you have your guaranteed rare roll, it's that percentage of occurring. It's very detailed. But yeah, I think it also offers just an amazing sort of first look into the amazing, as I said before during this town hall, like the main NFT collection we need to take care of and give love to. I think this gives a very easily accessible glimpse in our art, our IP, our collectible.
Yeah,
So yeah,
totally. I'm
that's the
I'm ready.
intro.
The only thing
Rich, are we
is
ready?
I hope you guys are in Discord watching this because if you're on the stream, it might look kind of funky. But if you are in Discord, I think it'll look fine. So, yeah, let me know. Let me check in Discord real quick. Can you guys see it and hear it fine? I'm assuming you can. Yep. Okay. We're good to go there. So yeah, shout out to the art team. I think Roger's in here. Shout out to the web team, everybody involved in making this a thing. It might look a little bit odd because I'm on my laptop. As I said, I'm at ETH Denver. I'm not in my office, so we're gonna see how this goes. But yeah, I already have a bunch of fuel. I think Jeremy said I could show the fuel buying, or no, maybe I can't yet. But yeah, you see auto drone run there, charged run, hyper run, and then this one's if you don't have fuel, but I have fuel, so let's just go for it. Yeah, you know me.
Oh, you're going for the
Well, it's
hyper right
free. It's
away.
free money. Remember?
So prices aren't
Yeah.
accurate. It's free run money, that's true. Yeah. Let's see what you get, Rich. So first of all, depending on what alluvials you get from your auto drone run, we pick the region where they probably would have came from. So in this case, Rich got Abyssal Basin. So let's see the drone zipping through Abyssal Basin. See what he gets. There you go. This is a known zone, so people, seeing the concept art in real life. But for the zones that haven't
I'm
been
gonna
released
just.
yet, I think you'll be
I'm just gonna tell
in
you
for a
guys, like
treat.
I've done this multiple
What
times
direction are you
on my
opening, Rich?
computer. It looks much cleaner than it just did than on my laptop. So me personally, I open up the low end first. So we're gonna go here up here, and then you guys will see that this also has the new
Ooh, right
TPI
away.
indicators, which is the trait purity indicators, which gives you a more just holistic view of how good your alluvial is based on the stats that are good for that alluvial. So the TPI is dynamic to each alluvial basically. So but yeah, very cool process here, to easily acquire alluvials for somebody that does not have time to go do overworld runs.
Oh,
See, there's
not
a good
bad, not
scorpion,
bad.
Riptor. Oh, Blotto 85. Damn. Get some. Too bad this is
Oh, 85. That's really rare. And
yeah. And just
I think
so
your guaranteed
everyone's
rares
still
are still
aware, this is
coming. So
all on
this is a bonus.
int
Nice one.
environment, so I'm not really getting these things. So don't worry, guys. You don't have to be jealous. Okay, flare.
A flare, nice.
And then this is my rarest.
Fernite,
Ooh, 77 Starbuck.
okay.
So very
Oh,
nice.
Scarabog,
And
not
then
bad.
you'll be able to see at a glance, the different alluvials that you already own versus what you need to collect still. So it'll be at a glance what you need to buy or what you need to still be able to open to get still. So let's do it. And you can share them. Here, let's do one more. Is everyone able to see this? Because like my computer's being a little bit sketchy. Is everyone good? Everyone? Yeah, because my
The
laptop's
FPS isn't
struggling,
great, but
man.
it's not terrible
It's
either.
not loving it. Yeah. So here, let's do one
It's
more
alright.
for you
He's doing good.
guys. So the first run I found is always a little bit longer than the next one.
Oh, Crimson Waste. Oh, that was quick. Oh, let's see, Rich. You
Oh
did
yeah,
just
that was a
get
question I just
your
saw.
pity counter ruined for
Will
that
there be
flish.
a
That was
pity counter in
that
the
was just
overworld runs, or no? Because that 20% is already accommodating for that.
Yeah, so the base chance for auto drone is lower than what you'll find in the overworld, but it grows and it's balanced in
Yeah.
such a way that on average it'll
Mm,
balance each other out.
stabbing.
Not bad on the monarch. Ooh. Oh wow.
I just
This
want a
is
dark
it,
hollow,
Rich. You're gonna
man.
get
Oh, there we go.
T5
Furiox.
S3.
Nice looking Furiox.
86. Not bad.
Oh, there we go. There's the ram fight.
Oh,
Nice.
there's the
So
ram
yeah,
fight.
when so you guys will be able to test these as soon as I think today, honestly. Um, if everything goes as planned. Um, but I mean that's the gist of it. We don't want to ruin it too much for people, obviously. I don't think I think everybody got their share of it there. Let me see here. Let's see if I can close this now. Let's see what Kieran has to say. Yes, it works on at least it did work on mobile the other day. I've definitely tested it on mobile, Kieran, and it worked fine on mobile for me. Maybe Jeremy can reiterate that it does, but I definitely have tested on mobile and it worked for me on mobile. So hopefully it works for everyone else. But yeah, there's drone runs. You'll be able to test them on Sepolia with all this other stuff. So I got word from Stuart that Sepolia is being worked on right now as far as Overworld and Arena. So that should be done hopefully soon. And then all of you guys will be able to play on Sepolia, the new arena, which is very cool. New UIs, new drone augments, all kinds of stuff in there. I guess before I go into all that, are we good, Perry? Is there anything that you think we missed that we need to cover still?
Yeah, so in the coming Sepolia, release, and these won't all be here at the same time, but we'll have the arena multiplayer servers and the drone augments feature. The new Overworld runs, please give those a spin and give your feedback. A rework of the Overworld mission board, but more details on that later. The new fuel store, please test that flow as well. And the fuel migration we discussed. So exciting times, big release. Thank you
Yep.
for your patience, guys. I know this was
And
a long time coming.
I'll just go over a few more things. Like as I said at the beginning, this town hall is all recorded. We're streaming live on X, YouTube, Twitch, Facebook. So whatever your medium is, you can go back and watch the recording. As Perry said, the exact calculations for fuel conversions we'll go over in chat for you guys in a bit. I'm sure you guys can ping Perry after this, and we can, answer whatever questions you need there. I want to thank Perry for just coming on here and doing this. I know, not everybody has to be in front of the community, except myself and Kieran and Aaron usually. So it's nice to see some fresh faces in front of the community. So, or not your face, but your voice, and I appreciate you doing that because
good. It was fun.
You bring some. It's nice to have a spectrum of people to communicate to the community. Everyone knows Kieran and Aaron's type of communication, and so it's nice to have another person for sure. As for like I was getting into, we had multiple blogs released yesterday, you guys. An announcement with all these blogs. I highly suggest you guys go and read through them, starting with the Unified Fuel blog. After that, it goes into basically how we released a new client update yesterday for the public version. And once you go into that public version, you'll immediately notice there's no option for the overworld. So you cannot play the overworld on the live public version right now. But in hopefully a few hours, we will make an announcement and you'll be able to play the overworld and the new arena on Testnet Sepolia, which right now is still limited access. If you do not have access, I will just say there is a small, Jeremy's probably going to kill me for saying it, but there's a small chance that we can get you access. Like, I know I have a few keys left over, not very many. Maybe Jeremy might have a few, but I don't want to promise that. So if you don't have access, don't worry. You can still play the arena on the public version. I'm sure there will still be people playing there. We do highly encourage most of you or anyone that has access to the testnet to be playing on the testnet, though, because as we mentioned in the announcement and just in general, like as you guys know, we've cut back our team significantly. So Kieran's mentioned it a few times, and I'll reiterate it that, getting feedback from you guys and actual bug reports. I can't stress this enough. Because a lot of times in the community, what happens is people will, say, oh, I had this bug. And then someone's like, oh, yeah, that's already like a bug. Like, I know about it. It's like, okay, well, that person might know about it. But at the same time, we might not know how urgent it is. So not only do I encourage you guys to, make bug reports and make them clear and, about what's going on, it helps us immensely, especially, with a smaller team now. But also you can actually earn, a reward for it. We have the bug bounty program now. And it's in the announcement if you check the announcements. And we paid out some rewards recently to, like, I think the top 10 guys who submitted bug reports for bugs we didn't know about. And they were good, clear, concise bug reports, no nonsense bug reports. So I think Jetski or Peter posted a list somewhere of already known bugs. So we'll try and get that pinned somewhere so you guys know of the known ones. But as I said, like, it really helps out the QA team, our development teams, for you guys to actually make the bug reports, not just complain about it. I know it's frustrating, but yeah, it does help us immensely to do that stuff. So, and like I said, you can definitely earn some type of reward for doing so. So, yeah, I think that's that at least. And as I said, we'll make an announcement in the next few hours once Sepolia comes online. What other housekeeping things can I go over right now? Let me see. Jeremy just messaged me. He's probably telling me I shouldn't have said anything, but it's okay, guys. That's what I'm here for, to get in trouble. Yes. I think we're good. Unless anybody else has their hand raised, which they don't. Make sure you guys sign up to be in the Overworld focus group. There is a link on Kieran's Twitter. It's basically, I don't know how he's going to be picking the people. You can... Yes, it does sound like I'm getting a lot of messages on my computer. But yeah, I'm sure if you just DM Kieran, like if everyone DMs him that you want in, it'll probably give you a better shot if you DM him as much as possible. So that would be helpful. And then, yeah, I want to thank everyone for coming out and, supporting us. And as we said, we're here for the long haul, and, we're here to make the best games possible and support your guys' vision as well. So, also, if you're at ETH Denver, I'm here at ETH Denver. You can come say hi to me. I think I'm the only one here from the Illuvium team. Hamilton had to take off. But I'll be here at ETH Denver until tomorrow or the next day. Or basically tomorrow. Stuart is messaging me now. Let's see what he has to say. We're going through the final testing, and then we should be unleashing it on the community. So very soon, you guys. I believe that is everything. So once again, thank you guys for coming out. Perry, I appreciate you for coming here and answering all the questions. And yeah, we will talk to everyone later. Everyone have a good rest of your day. See you guys.